Yes, welcome everyone here to the Smash Sport Show right here on Smash FM here on Lockdown Thursday here in Melbourne. Because let's go across to our friends over in South Australia in particular. It's been with our favourite netball club. Of course, that's the Matrics Netball Club. Of course, if you've been following our show, especially this year, of course, we've had the Premier League team, the Premier League Reserves team that won the Premiership a couple of weeks ago. Another team that won the Premiership as well, of course, part of the AMND competition, of course, making it back-to-back in 2021, of course, had to come from behind this time by a big deficit and, of course, managed to topple over seems to be the Matrix rivals, of course, in the contacts and winning by 2 goals in a very probably similar fashion to what happened in the grand final a couple of weeks before that. And we've got 2 very special guests joining us right now, of course, the coach and, of course, the captain of that team. Thanks both for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks, Will.
No worries. Well, I'll get both of you to introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about the season up to the grand final.
I'll start us off, shall I? So my name's Sheree Wingard. I am the captain of the AMND side. First season back after having a little bit of a break. Incredible season. I feel very lucky to be a part of it. I'm a mid-court player and yeah, it was a bit of a journey of a season, to be honest. We had COVID thrown in there. We had player injuries thrown in there. We had a final series that in my long career, I've never been a part of anything like it. And then to top it all off in style, we managed to score the win in the grand final.
Indeed. Well summed up, Shez. Yeah, I'm Beth Shimon. I'm the coach of the AMND side at Matrix. It's my second year coaching AMND in winter time. So very pleased to have gone back to back with this win as well. As Sheree said, it was an extraordinary season, not without ups and downs, that's for sure. We also had, we're told about halfway through the season that we wouldn't have 2 out of our 4 goalies. And so we had to recruit and bring in a former Matrix League player, Brooke Jeffs, to complement the circle. And so that proved to be a very positive move for us. The group of girls were extraordinarily resilient and, you know, like I'm sure you would have heard as well, Will, as demonstrated by the league and reserves, there was a lot that the club went through as a club and it was really pleasing to come away with the win. The game before the grand final was only decided by 3 goals and our grand final was only decided by 2. So quite a nail-biting series.
The defending champions from last year after you beat Walkerville by quite a lot in last year's grand final. So this year you played the Contacts, which funny enough, your league team had to verse them probably about 2 weeks before that. And of course lost in a very similar fashion. I guess, what was it like going to that grand final against Contacts? And was it, you know, a bit of motivation to get one back at them after what they did to your league team?
Speaking from a coaching point of view, absolutely. Sheree and I were both at the reserves and league grand finals, and they were extraordinary games to be at, both of them. You know, that's what you want grand finals to be, is decided by nail-biting finishes, and they certainly were. We've had a long-standing rivalry with Contacts. They're a fantastic club. They're full of talented players and coaches. And so we know that it's always going to be really tough when we come up against them. We knew that in AMND, that would be no different. The balance of games leading up to the grand final was 1 apiece. We had a convincing win against them in round 2. And then in the second round of the season, they beat us by 7 goals. So we knew we were in for a fight, and having that bit of a sting from the league loss was an extra motivator. I would agree with that. What about you, Shez?
Yeah, listen, I've been at the club for a long time, so to watch the Premier League lose the way that they did a couple of weeks before actually really hit close to home for me. It was really hard to watch. And a dear friend, their captain, Laura Packard, who also retired in that game, it was really hard, but that's sport at the end of the day. And as Beth said, our rivalry with Contacts is pretty special. And every time we come up against them, it's just not holding anything back, going hell for leather. So it's interesting. Our grand final probably wasn't the same as previous games I've played in. Normally it's very much goal for goal, and really it's luck when it comes down to the final seconds in terms of who's ahead. But this game was very different to what I had experienced. But to get the win in the way that we did, it's a memory that I will definitely hold on to for a long, long time.
Me too.
We'll get to that grand final in a moment. Now, you mentioned before about obviously Laura retiring after that grand final. Have you convinced her to jump into the league team next year?
I have already had a conversation with her. I actually spoke with her just after our grand final, actually. And it was nice because she got to experience that little bit of success that she didn't quite get to in her game. Listen, I don't think we'll get her on board next season, but don't you worry, I will have her on board in the future.
Specialist coaching gig anytime she wants.
I thought I'd give that one a go. First half was a bit of a disaster. I guess trailed by double digits, 11 goals or so at halftime. What exactly happened in the first half?
Really hard to describe, to be honest. We felt as though our preparation was great. We were coming off a really good win, actually. It was probably one of the best wins we've had for the season. And we were quite emotional after that game too, because it was a bit of a roller coaster. And then I felt like, we were ready to go, and we were just beaten by a better side in the first half. They played very convincing netball. We weren't able to stop their flow. And to be completely honest with you, I had a moment in that first half that I thought, all right, this is going to be rough. What's this going to look like at the end of the game? And what do, when we go and celebrate or spend some time together after, what's that going to look like when we've lost by, potentially 11 plus goals? But credit to our group and the faith that we had, and we were able to turn it around. But to be honest, it wasn't pretty. And our families and people watching were like, are they serious? What are they producing at the moment? Two polar opposite halves of netball, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And, being the coach, I was one of those people on the sidelines going, wow, this isn't a team that I've seen all season. And I think that probably the two main things that I would say would sum up that first half is we made errors. Some of them really unusual basic errors like stepping or passes that we wouldn't normally pass. We found ourselves passing because the pressure out there was extraordinary. And Contacts were able to score on those turnovers. So, in a series, in a game of netball, if you're scoring your centre pass and then you're scoring your turnovers, the score exponentially builds very quickly. And secondly, Contacts' flow down the court was uninterrupted. We weren't doing enough to disrupt the way they wanted to play. We just weren't getting our hands on the ball. And the first quarter score was 17-11. We, as a coaching team, we decided to try and correct it. So to, give feedback. And to the players' credit, the second quarter score was only 14-11. And however, at one point during that second quarter, we found ourselves 11 goals behind. So we went into the third quarter with a halftime score of 31-22. So, you know, I think from my perspective, at no point did I believe we wouldn't win that game. I was just, to me, it was like, okay, a matter of when. And I've coached teams before, I've played in teams before where you kind of wait for that moment for, you know, kind of the gear to kick in and for things to start happening. But what was so special about this win was the way that we created those opportunities for ourselves. We switched on that defensive pressure. And when you look at the first half score compared to the second half score, you know, I'm a bit of a numbers nerd, I am. But the first half score being 31-22, the second half score was 18-29. So, you know, that defensive pressure, they scored almost the same amount of goals in the first quarter as what they did in the second half. So the changes, the mindset from the players and the changes that we made had the effective, the impact that we wanted, certainly.
Pretty much just answered my next two questions.
Well, we could talk about this game all day, honestly.
Literally just answered my next two questions. One of the questions I was going to ask, which you sort of pretty much answered it, was what did you say at halftime?
Look, throughout the season, I'd like to think, Shez might think differently, that I'm quite a consultative coach. And a lot of the time I will, you know, if things aren't going our way, I'll ask the players, how does it feel out there? What's going wrong? You know, why do you think, you know, X, Y, and Z is happening or isn't happening? A lot of the time, if we didn't play, you know, we only lost a handful of quarters really all season. We lost 3 games in the minor rounds, and in those times I could see that the effort was there. In the grand final, the effort was there, that's for sure. But in games gone by, I've kind of gone with the, look, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed because we know that you can do better than this. But at halftime in the grand final, I went straight to mad and just went, well, you've made it so much harder for yourselves now, haven't you? This is what we're going to do. So straight to mad. And I could see it, though, the players themselves, I think we were all in a bit of shock at one point as well, to just go, how is it that the score is like that? Because Shez can attest, it looked like hard work out there. It was a real grind of a game. The intensity was high. You know, so much was on the line. And look, who knows? I don't know if Contacts was surprised to be up by so much at halftime as well themselves, because it was certainly not a position we wanted to find ourselves in, nor would we have prepared for either.
Going from halftime, and then obviously fast forwarding that to probably 30 to an hour later, knowing that you won the game by 2 goals. What was it like? Like going from completely just absolutely going irate with your team for what happened in the first half to the end of the game where the final whistle went, you won the grand final by 2 goals. What was it like, you know, at the end of the game? Could you believe, or did you actually forgive them for what happened in the first half?
All is forgiven, Will. All is forgiven, you know, absolutely. You know, something that I didn't touch on was the changes that we decided to make at halftime, and it was to bring on a new wing attack. Soph is still in year 12. She just turned 18, and she didn't know she was coming on. I didn't, and normally I tell players that they're coming on, and in this instance I thought, no, she'll get a surprise and she'll roll with the punches. So moved Cherie into the middle, and moved down my centre to wing defence, and then wing defence to goal defence to see how that would go. So moved 5 out of 7 positions. And I said to Grub, our assistant coach, I said to her, well, look, we'll know in 10 minutes if this is the right move or not, because I had such depth on my bench that we could have made a number of changes. Well, when Soph took her first centre pass, she just pegged it straight to the goal attack, Kat, on a drive to the post. So we got a goal in 2 passes. You can't be more efficient than that in a game of netball. And I looked at Grub and I went, I think it's the right move. And I'm getting goosebumps now just talking about that moment where, like, that was the real momentum shift, where we just went, right, okay, we have made it that much harder for ourselves, but this is not impossible. It's one centre pass at a time, and it's not going to happen in one quarter. You know, we have to focus on the process and take it one goal at a time. She finished with the ball and in her hands, and you know, it's a testament to how she played the game as well, really controlling it, particularly in that last couple of minutes where we just needed to control the ball and hang on to it.
So as from a playing point of view, I had this picture, you know, obviously you visualize playing in a grand final, winning a grand final, all of those things. And I had this visual of, when we win, I'm going to have a real classy celebration, you know, get around the girls, and had the ball in my hands. Literally the whistle went. I think I only knew that we had won the game for probably 30 seconds prior. Ditched the ball straight up into the air and bunny hopped across the court to get to another player. Probably the geekiest, most ridiculous celebration that I've done. But it just shows that, you know, that hard work right up to that point, and that feeling of, oh my gosh, we have actually just done that. Like, how did that happen? It was absolutely amazing. And I've been very privileged. I've won a few grand finals at Matrics, and I feel very lucky to have done that. But I've never won a final like that before. That was just out of this world. And normally in a grand final, you get, you know, maybe a minute, possibly 2, where you know that you've won the game, and you get to soak up all the emotion. But we didn't get that because we literally worked right to the last second when the whistle went. And I think that's why my celebration was probably slightly over the top. But yeah, it just meant so much.
It was a wonderful expression of joy, Shez, and just watching from the sidelines as well. I mean, I had just fists in the air. I just could not believe that we'd done it, and to see the joy and also relief on players' faces as well. There were definitely tears and just disbelief. One of my favorite I guess mementos from the game was, well, there are 2. Number 1 is our fitness trainer was filming the last 30 seconds, and she caught Shez's bunny hops across the court. So
I was going to get to that.
On repeat. Fantastic. But
I'll never live it down.
So fantastic.
Is it posted anywhere?
Pardon?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah. It's around the place, Will. But the other memento that I love is, I mentioned Brooke earlier, her mum was filming the reactions afterwards when we had, you know, shaken hands with contacts, and then we'd come together. And you can hear Brooke's dad commentating, and he doesn't mean to be, but he was saying to, you know, the people around him, how did they get out of that? They were 11 goals down at one point. Unbelievable. And I'm like, you're saying exactly what I'm thinking. You know, how did they do it? It was a really, really special win to be part of.
Great. Okay. So mentioned about, you know, you planned, you know, this, you know, the celebration after the whistle went and all that. But obviously it didn't go to plan. So And imagine it did go, obviously it was videoed, and which was perfectly answered by your coach Beth just a moment ago. So how much has that? Do you actually watch it back and you're like, why did I do that?
I'm a little bit haunted by it, to be honest. Because like I said, you watch all of these sport teams when they win, I've been watching AFL Grand Final and I don't know, I just had this idea of my celebration. And anyway, it's I look back now and I think, well, how nice, because it's really my emotion all into one. And after playing that game, I actually have no idea how I managed to bunny hop to the opponent because I was that exhausted. But I'm sure, over the next few years, it may surface on social media, perhaps around my birthday, just to get stuck into me a little bit. But that's all right. I don't mind that.
Was there like medals or trophies or whatever presented?
It was a little different because of COVID restrictions, but again, and we said this as a team a lot throughout the season, that we were just so grateful that we could be playing netball. And while we didn't have, I guess the standard medal presentations where all of the teams that played in that time slot kind of come to a certain court and the premiers are presented with their medals. We recruited Peter, our president, Pete Mazzarchi. He came across to the court and presented everyone with their medals, and we did receive as well the AMND Premiership plaque. So I haven't given that yet to Pete to present in the club rooms. I've got it sitting on my mantelpiece side by side with the 2020 Premiership plaque. So we will have a time very soon to present that to Pete so that they can go to the club rooms where they belong. But don't worry as well, Will, we certainly did the very ceremonious cutting of the netball net. So the nets came down and they went around the necks. It's a very important tradition.
So it sounds like another team that hasn't returned a trophy to Pete yet, because I know the reserves haven't done that either. I have to ask. You mentioned about the medals a moment ago. So how long did both of you wear your medals around your necks for, and did either of you sleep with it?
I did. Although I didn't get many hours sleep, to be completely honest with you. We did party reasonably hard in good COVID style, don't worry. But I was wearing my medal for as long as I possibly could. I actually took it to work, but I put it in my handbag because I thought, well, I can't really wear it around my neck, but I'll have it there just in case anyone mentions the grand final, and then I can chuck it on.
Love it. Love it, Shez. And look, Will, we did, we had several catch-ups afterwards, including presentation night, where we were lucky enough to have a bit of a boogie as well on the dance floor, and the medals were out for sure. I sadly, as the coach, got the plaque, so I'm working on Pete to be able to get a medal of my own, so stay tuned.
Now let's talk a bit about both your netball journeys. Obviously, both your ex-Adelaide Thunderbirds players as well, which I just did some research on. So where did both your netball journeys start, and why did you choose it?
I started, it was probably around 6 or 7, I think, when I first started my netball journey. To be honest, I was a classic sporty kid and did every sport under the sun. The main reason was to get out of school. Isn't that why we all do it when we first start? And then got to a point where I was playing netball and softball and had to choose one, and thought that my pathway in terms of netball would be I'd have a lot more opportunity. So went down that direction. I have been extremely privileged with my netball career. So I played with Sassy, then got recruited into the Adelaide Thunderbirds, where Beth and I obviously played together. And we were a part of the 2010 Premiership with the Adelaide Thunderbirds, which was also something amazing. Never experienced anything like it. And then after that, went to Matrics, And I actually retired from netball in 2016 with Matrics as the Premiership captain, which was awesome. And then just missed the game so much, missed the people, and also wanted to be part of the development of some of the youngsters in terms of playing alongside them. So I came back to AMND. And then 2 years ago, I was actually really unfortunate. The night before the grand final, I got told I had a serious health condition and had to not play in that grand final, which was obviously devastating. We lost by 2 goals that year. And then had to have 18 months off netball. And this has been my first season back. So as well as winning the grand final, on a personal note, it was amazing to even be playing and to be a part of that. So, yeah, it's been an incredible career. It's not done yet. I will go around again next season if the body allows it. But yeah, also to be part of Matrix, you've been following the journey. It's a pretty amazing club, to be honest. Some key people that keep the culture alive. And I hope that I've also been a part of that.
Sheree didn't mention as well that she was the Premiership coach of the Inter-1s team this year as well. So as well as coming back from 18 months off, she decided to take a coaching gig as well. So.
And they won the grand final on the same day.
Yes, I was going to get to that one. Yep.
Yeah.
Incredible. Look, Will, my journey is similar to Sheree's. I started when I was about 7, and I came to Matrix when I was 16, played in the Inter-1 side, and then got a SSS, won a reserves premiership with Matrix, and then got a SSS scholarship. So did 2 years with SSS, played in various state teams in the Australian National League, which Sheree did as well. Was in the 2010 Thunderbirds Premiership team, which was a just incredible experience. Met some amazing women who are still my very close friends. I, during that time, because I was told that I was too short to play my preferred position of goal defence, and was told that I needed to pursue a career in the mid-court, I decided to change clubs. So I moved to Woods Panthers, who are now South Adelaide, played quite a few years there, and then changed clubs as well to go to Newton Jags Netball Club. In my very first game for them, this is after I retired from National League, I managed to do 2 ACLs at once. So I was on a pretty big road to recovery there, got back to playing, and then I retired from State League a year after Sheree. So that was in 2017. Had a couple of years off, and then got a call from Matrix. Said, no, thank you. Netball's broken my heart a little bit. I need a bit more time. Got another call from Matrix and eventually said yes to coaching in summer, and then was just hooked. As Sheree said, it's a really wonderful club that I think raises the bar, sets the standard in South Australia and keeps going with that, pushing every year, not only with the standards, but also with its culture. It's a very encouraging, family-focused club. What I love about it is everyone can be themselves at that club and just really play netball because they love it, in pursuit of, bettering themselves as well as athletes and people. And so here I am. It's on the verge of 2022, and I'm playing summer myself and helping out with coaching as well. So here's to a three-peat, I say. Like Shats, the Rezzies, they've done it 3 times in a row, so we can too.
Both of you are obviously Premiership players with the Thunderbirds. How special is that? And I'm sure that would have been one of your ultimate highlights throughout both your netball journeys.
Yeah, Beth and I played in the same season with Thunderbirds in 2010 and won the Premiership, which it was seriously special. It had a slightly different feel to it. I think only played about 5 minutes that year and sat on the bench in the grand final. And the players before me in terms of Nat Bomberto and Emily Beaton, that's fine. I'm happy to sit and watch them do their thing. But that experience definitely set up my career in terms of the level that I wanted to get to and the type of netball that I wanted to produce. So, yeah, it was really special. And I think everyone in that group formed a really close bond. And although we're not all still tight, to then play under Beth after having that connection together, I think, yeah, it just makes it even better. It adds something special. So definitely grateful for that experience, because I don't think there's too many people that get to say they were a part of something like that.
Yeah, and I echo that, Shez. And I was also a player that sat on the bench for the season, and I sat the bench in the grand final. But, you learn so many lessons during an experience like that, and so many things that you can then take into the next iteration of your career, whether it's playing in state league or whether it's coaching, which we both are now. I think it's really special that both as South Australian players, we were there, and we're now giving back to a South Australian club. And, reflecting on that time as well, it was a really exciting time for the sport to be part of, the transition from the Commonwealth Bank Trophy, when that ended in 2007, and then the ANZ Championship started in 2008. There were only 5 teams in Australia, 5 teams in New Zealand. The competition isn't trans-Tasman anymore. It's within Australia. And, it's really exciting to look back and have been part in I feel, a small way of that kind of evolution of the sport. And to have been in a team with so many extraordinary players, as Cherie said, the likes of Nat Bomberto, the Australian captain, Monia Gerard was there, another Australian captain, Shani Layton, and so many others. Jiva Mentor was part of the defensive unit. So we learnt so much, not only on court and about the sport, the coaches as well, learning from Jane Woodlands Thompson and Lisa Alexander, who went on to have, a Diamonds career. You learn so much about what it takes to achieve at that level as an athlete, but as a team and as a club off court as well. So I'm extremely grateful to have been around at that time. And as they say, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So many people, not just women, people play netball in Australia. So, I'm so grateful that Shez and I ended up in the same team at the same time for that season, even though, I'm sure everyone wants to be playing at the highest level they can for as long as they can. Look, to get a premiership, not many people get to do that. So, yeah, a very special experience that has defined me, that's for sure.
Mention all the names, and obviously there's quite a lot. It was probably one of the best netball teams in the country, and still is for these last couple of decades. You mentioned about Jiva Mentor, who's still playing in our competition. Of course, playing with the Magpies at the moment. Obviously, Shani Layton's obviously playing at AFLW level at the moment. Funny enough, for the same club. Are you still amazed how amazing Jiva Mentor is and still playing at so much of a high level in this competition?
I think it's amazing that Jeeves is still playing. She is extremely dedicated to the sport, and she's a wonderful athlete, an ambassador off court as well. I just, if I didn't love her so much, I'd hate her, because, she's just she's just a real legend. And I think part of that original cohort to come across from the UK and play in Australia, and she's been a huge part of the development of the sport, the profile of the sport. And look what she's done at international level as well with her Roses career. She's just a really great role model for people in Australia as well as the UK.
I think the best thing is that she's an absolute legend. And that's what I absolutely love, is that, you get so many people who perform at this high level and do it consistently, but to be a genuine, humble person is something that's slightly rare, I think. And so it's really nice to see her continue her career, because not only is she adding to the netballers that she plays with, but she's also adding a lot away from the court. And we talk about powerful women, and she's a classic example of that. So really proud of what she's achieved, and to be able to play alongside her for, I did that for 2 seasons, was really amazing, something special. And, I learnt so much from her. And obviously you mentioned Shani Layton, and we look at the athletes that are crossing codes, and I love that too. Ash Braz as well, who's done amazing things with AFLW. So I hope that we get to see more of that, because I think these athletes have so much to offer, not within one sport, but across a range of sports. So, when I grew up, I had to choose, but I hope that that's not the case moving forward, and females get the opportunity to play a range of sports.
What does the sport of netball mean to both of you? Obviously, both of you have achieved so much in the sport. Obviously, winning Premiership as players at a higher level, as well as being over there in South Australia. Both of you represent your state. And also being part of the SASI program at one stage throughout your journey. I guess, what does it mean to both of you, especially being there at Matrix?
Netball's changed my life. It's shaped the person that I am today. And, it's not so much the sport. I absolutely love the game, and I love everything about the game, but it's the people around you. And I have created some awesome friendships that I will keep with me for the rest of my life, that will probably appear in my wedding, all those sorts of things that are just memories that when I leave this earth, I'm so glad I get to take that with me. So I'm really grateful to the opportunities that I've been given in my netball career. Matrics, it's so hard to talk about Matrics because I don't feel like there's any words that describe what it's like. You need to be a part of it to understand it. And I know that people at Contacts feel something similar, but the Matrix Netball Club is just an incredible place. And it's not just if you play at the top level, it's when you play at any level, you feel exactly the same. And there's a reason that I retired and I came back to the club, and to come back and want to develop some of the youngsters and, give up my time. I don't get paid for this. It's purely because I love it. I love the people. I love the environment. And yeah, I feel very blessed to be a part of it.
I think for me, what sport does for you, it can take you to the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. The highs come from achieving goals, from winning games, from meeting people, from learning about yourself. It can break your heart as well through injury or not making the team that you want to make, through losing. I mean, we all hate losing. Mm-hmm. But ultimately on my journey, I wouldn't change a thing. Sport teaches you so much, not only about being active and being healthy, but even little things like being organized, learning how to set goals, learning how to work in a team. Sometimes when you play in a team, you may not end up in everyone's wedding. As Shez says, you're not going to be best friends with everyone, but if you have a healthy team environment and a good club culture, the important thing is that you have respect for each other and that you are working towards and understand you're working towards the same goals. netball's taught me that. I apply it every day in my professional life now. And so I'm grateful for that. Netball, the sport itself, look, I'm going to get on a little bit of a soapbox here. I think the nail check has to go. I'm not a fan of having someone else look at the length of my nails before I get on the court. I don't know any other sport in the world that does that. At least they're not measuring the lengths of the dresses now, but I just think, come on, guys, 2021, let's get rid of the nail check. We can do it.
It's not what I expected you to say.
No, I wasn't either.
Michelle, you're a tough act to follow. I can't talk, like I second everything that you said about our club and about the sport and what it's done. I thought I'd take my opportunity, there it is. Let's ditch the nail check.
That's the first time I've ever had someone said that. Beth, I do know you have a sister that still plays the sport.
Do, yeah.
Of course, in the Suncourt Super Netball in one of the Queensland teams. I can't remember which one it is, but everyone knows. I'm sure everyone in the netball world know who I'm talking about. But, how special is to see her play?
Oh, the little larrikin, yeah, she's, I'm so proud of her. So my sister Kate, she plays for the Sunshine Coast Lightning. She had her first year with them this year and just signed a 2-year contract to play with them for the next couple of years. She moved up there with her dog Evie, and her partner Trev has just joined. And, over the last couple of years as well, she's put her hand up for selection at international level, and our parents are from the UK, and so through our dual citizenship, she was able to play for the Roses at international level. So, if not for COVID, who knows what would have happened with upcoming selections for, international competitions that are happening. I've seen her grow so much as a person and a player. I remember when I was a squad player for the Thunderbirds in 2009, and that was the same year that Kate was invited to be a train-on in the Thunderbirds. So there's 5 years between us, but that just shows, her talent and her height. Look, what I lacked in height, I made up for in fitness, and let's just say Kate wasn't as fit back then as what she is now. So Shez, I don't know if you remember that session when we did 1K time trials with Brenton at the Uni Loop, but we were doing a modified version of a Goodwin run. So in like a rectangle shape, we would, sprint the long straight and then jog the short straight, and had to make it in certain times. We weren't doing that in that session. That was another session, but these 1 kilometre time trials, for some reason we couldn't run on the track, and so it was in a rectangle that Brenton had kind of wheeled out the distance, and so we took off, and look, to her credit, she finished every single one, but at one point when we were running at the pace that we were both going at, she was at the other side of the rectangle to me. So I could kind of, see her struggling along. She's going to kill me for sharing this story. And at one point I kind of start going up the straight and I don't see her. And I'm like, oh, she must have gotten a second wind. Did she, decide to sprint that straight? And I drew level with a big tree, and there she was against the tree, just throwing up. And, to her credit, and this is actually something that Nat Medhurst said to me when I first joined the Thunderbirds, because she was a Matrics player, and I remember going up to her at a presentation night, and I said, Nat, I'm really nervous. It's going to be really hard, isn't it? Preseason is really hard. And she said, yep, it is. But you know what? Never stop. No matter what, if you have to crawl over the line, just don't stop. You've just got to keep going and finish whatever you start. And I said the same thing to Kate. And to her credit, she finished it, and I think that It was tough, but that set the tone for the rest of her career. You know, she's really applied herself and has worked hard. I just continue to be blown away also by her emotional and mental strength and maturity as well.
Who's the better netballer then out of you two?
Look, without a doubt, Kate, absolutely. I can't jump 70 centimetres. Will, come on. Let's be honest, you know. And so I think, you know, I'll pull out another one of my favourite quotes, and that is to say that hard work will beat talent when talent doesn't work hard. You know, so I didn't have the height that I needed to play in the circle. So I controlled what I could control, and I tried to get really fit and really strong. I tried so hard to increase my vertical jump, but just, I'm never going to reach what Katie did, because she, you know, she, like Cherie, had a choice to play volleyball or netball. And I think, you know, when you can see her rejecting those shots on the court, you can see why she was a volleyballer. And she chose netball. And I'm glad she did. I think that she's had a really fantastic career. And again, is you know, she's an old duck these days. She's been around for quite a while. And, you know, I hope that she continues to enjoy it. She really loves it up at the sunny coast. So fingers crossed they get a bit further on in the finals this year.
Very, very good answer. Even though I was hoping you were going to say yourself, but...
No, I'm hosting Christmas, Will. We need this to be, you know, no fights at the dinner table.
Oh, fair enough. In your AMND team, who had the most embarrassing moment on the court this season, and what was it? Pretty sure Cherie's one might be very close to being one of those embarrassing
Surely
moments.
mine.
I mean, it was at training that Kat managed to fall over her own feet. I remember that.
That
right.
counts.
I remember
That counts.
And I think at one point, I don't know, Cardia always managed to have a laugh. At one point in a training, we'd had a pretty intense training, and Cardia, she was our goalkeeper. And she'd been trying to kind of nail this, it might have been an intercept attempt or something. And she finally got one. And so she ran around the court like an airplane, like a soccer player does after a goal. That was pretty funny. Yeah.
Who's the comedian, the best singer, the best dancer on the team?
Oh, Brookie Jeffs, who joined our team a little bit later on in the season. She can seriously sing. I've got plenty of videos of her being able to sing, one of which was in season when we were on a wine tour. Actually, we trained the next day, and I didn't tell Beth until after the session as to why we were struggling so badly. But, yeah, she's definitely the best singer.
I think Kat, our goal attack, loves a bit of a dance. She was very excited that we could do the nut bush on the dance floor at presentation night. So she was leading the charge there. Sure.
We've also got our goal defence, Liv, who probably says the most ridiculous things in the most ridiculous moments. So she's the classic that everything is serious, and she comes out with a one-liner that is not connected, doesn't make sense, and we all have a bit of a laugh. So I would say she's a fair bit of the comedian in our group.
We've also got our own, we call her Coach Carter, our vice captain, Ash Bedell. She loves a good inspirational speech, so she does that really well too, with the hands in.
Beth, I need to ask you this based off Shez's response about, obviously, they had this wine thing the day before training. Obviously, they went to train. And so what was your reaction when your captain, Cherie, said to you about what happened the day before while they were struggling at training?
Look, Will, I was a bit surprised, but I certainly put them through their paces. So I
it's
was
like
very
she
pleased.
knew. It's like she knew that we had gone out the day before, and she's like, let's make this session so hard that they're going to regret their decision yesterday.
Look, it was at that point we were we preparing for why were we doing a Monday session? I can't remember. But
I think we probably were in the lead up to finals.
We were in the lead up to finals. I'm a big fan of, off-court team building as well as on-court, so nothing wrong with that. But look, I'm just really glad that they got to sweat it out and to, get focused for the Thursday session. And sweat they did, Will. Sweat they did.
Listen, my excuse was the best team bonding happens over a few glasses of wine. And I'm going to say, I reckon that was the turning point in the season. So a really great decision by me.
It did correlate, Shez. My numbers do say it does.
Yeah, okay. Did either of you have a pre-game superstition or ritual?
Look, as a coach, I really like to make sure that my notebook is ready to go. So I kind of have a certain way that I like my notes and stats pages laid out. And like every now and again, I would have, I think it happened like 3 times throughout the season where either I didn't have time or for some reason I thought that I'd done each quarter. So I have a page for quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. And, the girls were warming up and I didn't have my stat sheet set up. And look, I'm a bit old fashioned, so I'd rather write it than type it out and have it printed and ready to go. And so those games I just felt really rushed. And so I would make sure, I would say that it's not kind of I put my left shoe on before my right shoe, but I have to be really organized with my book before I can step into the stadium.
Mine was a little bit different because I actually coached before I would play. So it was not the preparation that I would like as a player. So I coached the inters. I would have to leave at halftime to then have 15 minutes to get my head in the game, get prepared, and then play. Towards the end of the season, though, seeing the physio was a ritual. My 33-year-old body was really struggling. And so shout out to Lisa, our physio, who kept me in one piece. And so I might book her in, I think, every Saturday next season so that I can get through the season a little bit easier.
Now, you mentioned about your inters winning as well. Now, obviously you mentioned just before that obviously you leave about halftime your inters game to get prepared and all that. Did you do the same thing on grand final day or did you stay with your inters the whole game?
Oh, yeah, I did do the same thing. And I left at halftime. It was pretty close game, actually. And so it was really, really hard to leave. But what made it worse was we had a change. We don't normally have a change room before a game, but we did before the grand final. And we were sitting there and Beth was doing her pre-game. And I was very much listening to Beth, but I could also hear the crowd go absolutely nuts, which I knew was my inters game. But I didn't know, were we up? Were we not up? I had no idea what was happening. And I don't actually think I've told Beth this. But another player who was opposite me was looking at her watch and she had got a message from someone out in the crowd who had said the inters had won. And so she looked at me and she was like, they've won. And so I was almost about to scream, but Beth's like doing her pre-game, so I had to keep it under wraps.
Didn't notice, Shez. Well done. Oh, Shez, you did do such an amazing job. And I've got to say, I didn't even think about getting the change room meant that you couldn't see if your girls won or not. Sorry.
It's fine. It was good. I needed it to make sure I was focused on our game.
I'm so glad they got the win.
So Shez, did you get a presentation as well, even though you went there? The inters?
Oh, I didn't. I wasn't part of the presentation straight after the game. And I'm also a little embarrassed to admit it. The Inters as a whole had their presentation on the Sunday after our grand final. And I had already committed to a silly Sunday with the AMND group. And so love my Inters. They're awesome. But yeah, I had more important things to do on that day. I'm sounding worse by the minute, aren't I?
That's the thing, Jez, and I think that, Brooke Jeffs really summed it up, that like wins like that don't come around often. They really don't. And so I'm glad you celebrated.
Well, hopefully you eventually make it up to them, the Inters, eventually. But both of you, thank you so much for giving up your time to join us. I know we've been quite overtime now in this interview, but thank you both of you. It's awesome having both on the show, and hopefully next year, depending on what happens with the COVID situation, hopefully I'll be over there next year to hopefully get to see it in action and see how that weird dancing celebration went after the whistle. You win it.
I'll get a front row seat for you. Don't worry.
Oh, thanks for having us, Will. We really appreciate the opportunity.
No worries, and that's Sheree and Beth there joins from the Matrix Netball Club, of course, winning back-to-back the AMND, of course, Premier League Premiership after being the contacts from 11 goals down to win by 2 goals in their grand final. There's more on the Smashboard show right after this. Don't go away here on the 10th year celebration.